Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
5 things you need to know about self-isolation. Stay home. If you are told to self-isolate, it means staying at home, not going to work, school, or other public places, and you should not have any visitors. Separate yourself. If you live with others, then you need to stay in a well-ventilated bedroom with the door shut. If you have to share a bathroom, then use it after everyone else. Don't share towels and toiletries, as this may put others at risk. Call ahead. If you develop symptoms such as a fever or cough, then seek advice first by calling the Ministry of Health's hotline at 538-4787 or 458-4787. Please do not show up at a medical center or hospital, as this may put others at risk. Take care with waste. If you test positive, your waste should be double bagged and disposed of separately. Create a buddy system. If you live on your own, you can plan with friends and family to check in with each other and run essential errands if one becomes sick. Once sick, they should leave groceries on the doorstep. Why it's important. COVID-19 causes a mild illness for 4 out of 5 persons. Self-isolating will help protect the older generation and those who may have underlying health problems from getting infected. COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to spread between people in close contact. Now let's get prepared to stay healthy. To reduce your chance of catching or spreading COVID-19, practice these simple everyday preventative measures. Droplets can also land on surfaces, so ensure that you wash your hands frequently for a minimum of 20 seconds or sing the happy birthday song twice. Avoid touching your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with an alcohol content between 60 and 90%. 70% is ideal. When you cough or sneeze, cover your nose and mouth with a flexed elbow or a tissue. Dispose of the tissue immediately and then wash your hands. If you notice someone has a fever and cough or other symptoms of respiratory illness, avoid close contact when possible. Let's all do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. Our health is our collective responsibility.
To feel and remember you give us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of life. Send down your warriors with the hello, we carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming, I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other, could there be that we decide? No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. Shall never win, because I will conquer. Oh, I will conquer. Yes, I will conquer. Conquer them. Come on, let's conquer. Oh, I will conquer. Rise up and conquer. Conquer them. I am a man. I am a champion. I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 WeiVybz Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, wherever it may be that you're viewing or listening to us. Good morning to you, Miss Cammie. Good morning. I did not forget you this morning. And of course, to all of you who are accustomed to joining us, Betty, Cynthia, Caitlin, let me see. Who else is here with me already? Leslie. Good morning to all of you who are accustomed to joining us. And for those of you who I can't see but you're tuned in, good morning. It is a beautiful, beautiful morning in the spice aisle. Of course, I saw this morning that Disney Cruise Lines would have brought back 19 of our Grenadian nationals working on board. We are always happy to see our people home. And of course, we know on Sunday, I believe there will be a couple more coming in as well. You know, so I know that there are families that are very happy right now because their family members are back on land. And we are grateful for that. Now, this morning, as promised, we are going to have the Minister of Tourism. She is going to be here with us to discuss, tourism, the way forward. What are we going to do? How do we get now from point A to point B? All of these things we have to start discussing because you never know. The times are changing quicker than before. So we have to be prepared for every and anything. All right. So we will have her at sometime around 11 o'clock to discuss with us the way forward. All right. So tune in for that. Now, this morning, the director of the NIS, Mr. Dorset Cromwell, I hope I'm saying the name right. If I'm not, Dorset, I'm sorry. He gave a statement on the employment benefit. I know a lot of people are wondering, they have been wondering, they've been calling, they've been querying on social media and otherwise, what is happening with the unemployment benefit as it relates to NIS? How do they qualify? What do they have to do to sign up to receive? All of these things are questions that we all have. So, with that in mind, for those of you who missed it, we are going to take this opportunity to play it for you here again. It's about 8 minutes long. Not very, very long, about 8 minutes. So I am going to quickly play that for you so you guys have an idea of what is happening as it relates to the NIS.
Following is a statement on the Unemployment Assistance Benefit, UAB, by Director of the National Insurance Scheme, Mr. Dorset Cromwell.
The National Insurance Board over the years continued to hold true to its mantra, serving you because we care. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on economies has pushed countries worldwide to implement expansive stimulus packages to address the economic fallout for citizens and the almost certain recession that will follow. As the pandemic takes its toll on business operation, an increasing number of workers face a layoff or reduced hours, significantly reducing their ability to take care of basic needs and their overall spending power. On March 20, 2020, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, announced a series of economic stimulus measures, including the introduction of an unemployment benefit program to be administered by the National Insurance Scheme in the amount of $10 million. The mandatory curfew imposed to help curb the spread of COVID-19 resulted in economic activity grinding to a halt during the month of April, and although the government has started easing restrictions, it will be a long way back to normal. Cognizant of the challenges that lie ahead, the NIS is honored to join forces with the government of Grenada and employers in supporting and caring for affected persons, notwithstanding our own constraints. It is the second time in its history that the NIS has been called to provide an unemployment benefit. You may recall that after the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, the NIS paid an unemployment benefit. That was not a benefit offered by the NIS, and contributors were not paying towards that benefit. However, the NIS, recognizing the economic malaise that followed, saw the need to take care of our valued contributors. As a consequence, we introduced a temporary unemployment benefit, and 3,600 of our valued customers received $6.8 million over a period of 6 months. As we prepare to pay unemployment benefit this month, it is important to note that this comes at a time when the NIS is itself facing a financial challenge. You may recall that in 2019, members of the NIS team traversed the country, highlighting the deteriorating financial and actuarial position of the NIS and making a case for changes. During these consultations, we received their overwhelming support to make the tough but necessary changes, and the government of Grenada acted prudently with your support to make the following 2 critical changes: to increase the contribution rate by 2% in 2020 and increase the retirement age from 60 to 65 over an extended period. In January of 2020, the first of these changes, the 2% increase, took legislative effect. COVID-19 could not have come at a worse possible time for the NIS, and its impact on the sustainability of the NIS in the long term can be significant. This pandemic is expected to have substantial impact on all of the NIS revenue sources as a consequence of the almost sure decline in economic activity and looming recession. Despite the reduction in income, the NIS remained committed to our pensioners and other beneficiaries. For the month of March, our pensioners received $8.2 million, and total benefit expenditure was in excess of $10 million. Pension expenditure will continue to increase as new pensioners are added monthly and pensioners continue to live longer. We anticipate that pension expenditure in 2020 will range from $6 to $8 million monthly. Already, with the reduction in income during the month of April, the NIS was forced to liquidate fixed deposit to finance its pension expenditure. This situation, though unsustainable, is expected to continue in the immediate future as the NIS honor its commitment to the Grenadian people. The situation we find ourselves in is not unique to Grenada. Unemployment packages are being discussed and implemented by several regional social security systems. It is important to note that social security systems are at various stages of sustainability, and the ability to support such a program may vary significantly. What sets Grenada apart is that we are not paying for 3 months like most of the other social security systems in the region. This program will run for 6 months. Like the unemployment benefit paid for after Ivan, this benefit was not on the NIS books or regulations. Contributors were not contributing towards an unemployment benefit. The National Insurance Board and the NIS family, understanding the hardship faced by contributors, considers this an excellent opportunity and vehicle to serve our customers during a difficult period. So let's discuss the key components of this program. The National Insurance Board has allocated $10 million to provide support and assistance in these difficult times, in conjunction with support provided by the Government of Grenada and your employers. This pie of $10 million will be shared equally among all. There will be no distinction between higher income and lower income workers. This will not be based on your income. Eligible persons must have been contributing to the NIS and must be unemployed as a direct consequence of COVID-19. Persons who are receiving income support or payroll support from the government of Grenada will not be eligible. There will be no double dipping. Application for this benefit will be made by employers and self-employed persons only. And in keeping with the need for social distancing, application can only be made using the form available on the NIS website www.nisgrenada.org. Qualified person will receive a flat monthly payment of $330 per month over a period of 6 months. Payments will commence during the last week of May 2020. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your patience and understanding in these difficult times. Stay tuned to our social media platforms and listen to the local radio and television station for further updates. Continue to stay safe.
The preceding was a statement on the Unemployment Assistance Benefit, UAB, by Director of the National Insurance Scheme, Mr. Dorset Cromwell.
Imagine that you've worked all year and...
There we have it. There we have it. That was a statement by the NIS on the unemployment benefit and what it entails and what you have to do to apply for that benefit. Now, I know when the communications officer, or is it PRO, Lisa Douglas, when she spoke to Aruna recently, she mentioned that in the event that you do not have a bank account, because they're trying to make everything electronic, as is every other business in Grenada, to ensure that we maintain physical distance, right? So in order to apply, you have to go to the NIS website, and I'm hoping that the young lady that called last week to ask the question is listening, so that you have the information. You go to the NIS website, which is www.nisgrenada.org, and there's an application form there that you have to fill out in order to apply for the benefit. Now, remember, the benefit spans over a 6-month period, and as long as you are registered and contributing to the NIS and your job has been affected, so your finances has been affected, you no longer work as a result of COVID-19. So it's not a matter of you being you working from home. It's not a matter of you stop getting a little side money apart from your regular salary, and you're going to apply. This is for people who have been, and there are people who have been seriously affected by this, right? What I do need to find out, however, and I am going to try to get Chanel Andrews here sometime either tomorrow or Monday, most likely Monday, to find out if that supplements the payroll and income support that has been given, or is it apart from? So that needs to be cleared up. I'll try my best to, if it isn't cleared up over the weekend, of course, by a government official, I will try to get Ms. Andrew again to give us that statement. But things are happening, may not be in the speed that we want it to happen, but it is happening, and I am happy. I feel grateful for the fact that there are individuals out there who need the support and are finally going to be able to get it. I do see that hairdressers and barbers have been added to the stimulus package. I don't see anything on nail technicians, but as Chanel said when she was here the last time, that it's flexible, meaning that as time goes by, more and more people will be identified under the stimulus package as needing support. All right? So go ahead and apply, which is what they would have advised. Apply. and then let the decision be taken. Okay, so I'm hoping that that will be done. I have a problem that I want us to discuss. And of course, this is my personal opinion on how the matter should be handled. And it is something that continues to happen time and time again. A lot of people will see it differently. But in conversation with someone yesterday, which made so much sense, we have an issue where individuals are in protest, very vocal, about an agreement or lack of agreement. I don't have the full story, and I'm hoping that when we have the Minister for Transportation next week, that we can get some light on the situation with buses as it relates to payment. Now, from what I understand, and I can be corrected if possible, they get is it 300 or a little over 300, Nazim, for per trip for the transportation of workers. However, they're not satisfied. Whatever the amount is, they're not satisfied with that amount. Okay, I understand that. My problem is, I think it is in bad taste and lawless for these kind of behaviors to be exhibited in front of the ministerial complex. In my opinion, I think that we must have some discipline sometimes and decency in the way that we handle matters. Not everything that we disagree on means that we have to protest and become vocal and become aggressive about it. There are many different ways to handle situations. So you are not satisfied with the amount that you're receiving. We are not saying that you don't have a right to not be satisfied. That is your right, right? You know what you want, you know what you deserve. Fine. But it all goes back in how you choose to handle a situation. Now, this leads me to the point that the time must come when government must stop engaging individuals, and this is my opinion, and start engaging associations and start encouraging people to build businesses. So, for example, you have a situation where buses are needed to transport workers from home to work. Mind you, some of these buses can only carry 4 or 5 people because of the social distancing rules. That is fine. So can you just imagine the amount of buses the government would now have to hire to get our policemen and our nurses and our doctors and so on to work? Good. Now, with that being said, in my opinion, I believe that government must engage the bus association, let the bus association make that decision, and let the bus association suggest, send out, receive payment, negotiate payment, and these sorts of things. So you don't have an issue like we had recently where the busmen gathered in front of the ministry and they're upset and they complaining about payment and on the news and all of that before further negotiation has happened. I believe that is of bad taste. Others may see it differently. And we have time before the minister calls, so you can feel free to call and chime in on the discussion. Remember, the number to call is 440-7377 for local calls, 347-329-3101 if you are in the diaspora and you want to contribute to the conversation. Let us know what you think about that, because I believe that there must be some order and some manner in which things are done. People have a right to feel the way they feel about certain things. But how you choose to deal with a situation says a lot about you. You know, how you choose to deal with a situation determines the result of that situation as well. You know, not everything deserves a bacchanal and a confusion and a jump up and I don't understand why we feel like we need to do this to make our voices heard. You know, and I feel like it's time when the hard decisions must be made. and the engagements of individuals like that. So you don't see a group of busmen coerce and they decide that all of them vex with what they get in. So all of them come together and they decide they're going to protest to get what they want. It doesn't have to be that way, and that is why in this time, especially as COVID-19 is here, that is why it shows us more and more the importance of businesses, cooperatives, and associations. Farmers associations, Nutmeg Association, Cocoa Association, Fishermen Association. If these things are functioning, in the way that they should function, then we will have less problems in identifying. So you want to help fishermen, but you can't identify all of the fishermen on the island. Now, the association is supposed to deal with a problem like that. An association should have the list of all of the fishermen, the registration of their boats, whatever income they make, whatever it may be. They may be able to give a gauge on how much a fisherman really brings in at the end of the month. If you understand what I'm saying, some order is needed. Some direction is needed. We fight too much, for lack of a better phrase. We fight too much. Everything is a fight. We fight against government. We fight against each other. We fight in our families. We just fighting all the time. And for what? We always fighting. Nobody sees the need to collaborate. Nobody sees the need to cooperate. Nobody sees the need to come together. Everybody is about their own business. Everybody is about it's my thing. I want to do my thing for myself. When you may reap better crop from collaborating. And I don't say crop as meaning farmer, but you reap better results from collaborating. So I want to know, what is it that has us so afraid of becoming organized? What is it that has us so afraid of wanting to collaborate with someone else and build something bigger than what we already have? What is wrong with a little bit of structure in the way that we do things? Take the unions, for example. When teachers have a problem, you would never see teachers gone and stand up in front of the Ministry of Education individually and saying, okay, this is our problem. We want, I have a problem here, I have a problem there, I have a problem over there, and we want it fixed. There is always organization in the way that they do things because they have a union that represents them. In the same way, farmers must ensure that their association is strong. In the same way, busmen must ensure that they have an association that can defend them, that can negotiate on their behalf, so that there is structure and we don't look like everything is confusion and melee and bacchanal and jump up and protest. Because that's what it feels like sometimes. Sometimes before there's an issue, busmen strike. Before there's an issue, teachers strike. We just feel like everything has to be aggression and aggressive. Why can't we just sit and work things out in a calm, collective way and not try? Have we ever thought once that maybe our approach is sometimes the problem? That maybe we need to approach things differently? Look at the young lady that made the video when she came in from the cruise ship. I mean, who could really blame her for taking that approach when that is the approach that we as Grenadians had condoned for so very long? I'm not saying she's right. I would never say that. It was wrong on all ends. But we are the ones that condone it. The other day, there was a live on social media, 1,000, 2,000 views, and it was pure bacchanal and confusion, but that's what we like. And then when it happens in a forum that we don't like, we complain about it. But that's what we support. You know, so we have to be very careful, very, very careful in understanding what we want as a people, what standards we want as a people. Because I can't understand why we feel like we need to, as soon as there is an issue, jump on social media and it's real. I'm going on social media and I'll give them good. In the back of your mind, that is what you're thinking. So basically, you're gone for confusion. You know? And if you go on social media and you see somebody post something that says, I'm going live in 30 minutes to talk about the Bible, you might see 5 views, 6 views, 7 views. Positivity doesn't draw as much crowd as confusion and chaos. And we are the ones supporting it. And we wonder why. We wonder why some of these things are happening when we are the ones that are supporting it. So we have to be careful. I mean, I really do hope that the busmen do get the issue resolved as quickly as possible. Because, I mean, in this time, whatever little you get is great. Because there are people who aren't getting it all, you know. But, of course, you have to negotiate for what you think is best for you. But at the end of the day, you have to understand it's not what is best for you, but what is available. You know? So if you want $1 million, but only $100,000 is available, there ain't no way you could get $1 million. You know? So these are things that you need to consider in negotiation. I know sometimes we all want the most for ourselves. We want the best for ourselves, and we should always aspire for more and aspire for the best. But we have to also take into consideration what is available. What is available to me? Yes, I want a big house and a nice car. But is that available to me at this time? And what do I need to do to make that a possibility? Do I have to put in extra work? Then maybe yes. But what you want for yourself and what is available to you, 2 different things. We have to be able to determine the 2. So today our topic is tourism. All right. But before we go on to tourism, let me just take this call quickly. Good morning, caller.
Ms. Duncan, a very good morning to you and your listeners.
Good morning.
In connection with the transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Can the government bring in buses? I remember a long time we had PTS and all of that. Is it possible that they can bring in some buses and run? Maybe then the bus drivers will know what's happening, what time of the day it is. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
It's probably possible, but why would they want to? You see, we have to consider, right? If government decides to bring in buses, now I'm sitting here and I could just hear the ramblings that's going to happen. I could hear the quarreling. I could hear the confusion. I could hear government trying to take bread out of people's mouth. I could hear it. I'm sitting here and I could just hear it. But at the same time, we must understand that sometimes government may have to make hard decisions that benefit the majority of the people. So if every time there is an issue and busmen doesn't have a proper association to sit down and negotiate on their behalf, and the first thing that they choose to do is to strike, which is what always happens. And they don't want to negotiate at all. They feel that everything must go the way that they want it to go. If that is the case, ordinary Grenadians suffer. Me and you have to take the bus to go to work. We are the ones that suffer. Now, if government decided that they were going to bring in a couple public transportation systems, couple big buses, contract a couple of the ordinary buses that we have on the road. If they were to do that, would we agree with that? Honestly, would we as a people agree with government bringing in a public transportation system or enforcing public transportation system that is governed by the government of Grenada? Would we agree to something like that? Right? In the heat of the moment, when things hot and busmen strike, we glad for it. But if that is not happening, then we are the same ones that complain. We are the same ones that are going to say that government unfair, you know. So that's why I'm saying sometimes it is very important to weigh the pros and cons. And we must decide, be decisive, and say, okay, this is what I want to do. There are going to be bumps along the way. I am going to come up with some difficult times. When that happens, how do I choose to deal with it? Because how you choose to deal with it will determine your outcome. How you choose to deal with it will determine how long the period of stress and problems and difficulty lasts. Choices. We are all given free will. That's what we were given. God gave us that. One of the first gifts God gave to us was free will, so that we are able to make choices, and He doesn't have to tell us exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, why to do it. We have free will. He's given us that ability to make choices. And that is why every choice has a consequence, whether it's a good consequence, whether it's a bad consequence. There are consequences to our choices. So when we choose, or when we make a decision on what we want to do, we must choose wisely, not in the heat of the moment, but wisely. All right. So we're going back to the conversation of tourism, because I want to set the tone for when our minister calls in. Tourism, one of the leading economical products of the region, if not the world. What will happen in the next couple months? What will happen in a year from now? The minister did say here before that everyone needs to know, and not everyone in Grenada, but everyone in the region needs to now improve their tourism product. Because at the end of the day, when this is slightly over, when we can go back to a sense of normalcy, it is who has the best product that will win. You know, it's a competition. The cruise liners want to know that, okay, when I put a package together for Grenada, that package is not just jump in a bus, ride around the island, go back on the boat. That's all. We have to improve what is ours, what is our culture, you know. And if there's one thing I'm big on, is culture. I am big on promoting culture. I love Grenadian culture. I think we have a rich heritage, a beautiful culture. And it's being overthrown by carnival, you know. We see our culture now as just carnival. We don't see the richness in our heritage. We don't. Look at Carriacou. I love Carriacou. Carriacou, they have their heritage alive with their Maroon Festival. And yes, they have Carnival as well. But they also have their Maroon Festival, in which they showcase every piece of culture that makes Carriacou unique. And I love that. Why can't we do that here in Grenada? What is preventing us from doing that in Grenada? And some people may say, well, is the government, or well, is the Ministry of Tourism, or well, is the Minister of Tourism. But what about us as a people? You know, look at their string band, their string band team, their big drummers, their dancers. They're always around. They're always ready. We barely see that here in Grenada. When you go down to Sandals, you see the people in Sandals enjoying that. And that is fine. When you go to some of the other hotels, you see that. That is fine. But what about helping the people of Grenada, the youths, the young people of Grenada, embrace and enjoy Grenadian culture? Where are our cultural teachers, our historians, to teach our children the things of the past so that they can hold on to it? A couple of years down the line and our culture is completely gone, you know. Our children wouldn't understand what Veco is. Our children wouldn't understand the significance of a shortney. Our children wouldn't understand why we do certain things in our culture. Our children wouldn't understand what the big skirts and the drumming is all about. We will lose our culture. It's not just for tourists and for tourism, but for our people as well. We have forgotten how to support our own. We have forgotten how to support our own culture. So you see people buying a little piece of stringy costume. Not that I have anything against it, but a little piece of stringy costume. They'll pay $1,000, $600 for it. Fine, that is your choice. But let somebody come out with something cultural, something historical. Let somebody line the streets with a big skirts with their head tie. They don't even must have on a peasant top, a little corset top, or a same little bra top, whatever it is. But just to enjoy our culture, to keep it alive, so our children, so people coming in can understand what our culture is all about. Because we will lose our culture. It's sad to say, and it's sad to see that we have so many older heads. Grenada has such a rich history, so many stories to tell, so many folklores. But where is it? Where have we lost our way? Where have we then decided that our culture is now carnival? When did that happen? How are we going to fix this? And I'm going to open the lines for some people to make suggestions, and we talked about that more thing yesterday. Don't call me and tell me we need more. I want specifics. I want ideas. Let's start opening our conversation with in-depth thoughts and critical thinking. And stop with the baseline of we need more and it needs to be more. We need to stop that and let's start having good conversations, in-depth conversations. We can all disagree. That is fine. We don't all have to see things the same way. We don't all have to agree on the same things. But at least be able to explain yourself properly. You can't disagree with something you don't even understand. You can't disagree with something that you can't even explain. And I said it here yesterday. You're talking about the more that you want in agriculture. But at the same time, if you ask them what has been done before, they can't tell you. So there is no basis for that argument. Right there, I know conversation done. Or conversation ain't going to go nowhere because we'll just be spinning in circles. So it's time for us to start educating ourselves so that when we start conversations like this, valuable contributions can happen. And a lot of people, they're not happy, they won't listen because it's not melee, it's not jump up, it's not political push and pull, but at the same time, it's contribution to your country. You want to see your country develop, you want to see your country prosper, but you don't even know where your country is at this current point, but you want to see more and you don't even know what the more is. So let's start having a reasonable conversation. What do you want to see more in tourism? How can we improve our tourism product to make it more Grenada? And not just in August we say, okay, well, it's time for we culture carnival and we're ready. It must be a way of life. It has to be a way of life. So what suggestions do you have? What do you want to see done? Do you want to see that when they go up to Grenada, we have some of our cultural drummers there, some people on stilts, some people dancing with their big skirts, a couple shortney, a couple veco, a couple jab. What do you want to see? More than just they come off the cruise ship, they go to the spice market in town, then some of them go to Grenada, they go to the lake, they go to see the waterfall, and then they go back on the cruise ship. And they haven't experienced what Grenada is all about. Grenada is not Grenada, Grenada is not August 13, 10, 14 to 11, 10, 12 to whatever it is, carnival days. That's not Grenada. That does not make us who we are. It's our culture and our heritage that makes us Grenadians, that makes us who we are. So if we can't express that to the outside world, then we have already lost our heritage. We have lost our sense of what Grenada is all about. You know, do you want to see zip lining? What do you want to see that can improve our culture, our tourism, that can bring our heritage forward? What do you want to see? So the number to call is 440-7377 for local calls. And if you are in the diaspora and you want to contribute, the number to call is 347-329-3101. We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I am calling in respect to the culture. That's the topic.
Yes.
For today, right? The culture. I personally don't think that Grenada culture has died completely because when tourism comes in Grenada on the ports where the cruise ship terminal they call there, there are times where you will see drummers. I mean, the thing about it, most times you will see it around carnival time, which I do not understand why. But I mean, Independence time, like around Independence, you have the drummers from Tivoli, and wherefore even the principal for Heinzie, Mr. I can't remember his name, but you will see them drumming, they're making a drum. Sometimes you see them, the ladies with a nice little dress. I am young, and I like to go to the Independence culture activities in Grenville, sometimes on the carnage, or even watch it on TV where they have it in the stadium and so forth. And I like to see that. I like to go and you see the people. Even I'm from St. David's, first of all, and we have St. David's Day on the first, I think the first Sunday of every month. That's in Malmont. And you'll see the culture dancing, you'll see the pole dancing, and all these things. And then you will see even the models who come. They will say the way we used to have delicious juice. They talk about the little history, the little lassages, nature walks, and these things. So I don't really think that the Grenada on a whole, the culture really die. I just think that people just not speaking about it as often as we want them to speak of, like in Carriacou, where you go in Carriacou and the first you see palm tree, the young guys, they drumming from the time you see them, you know them is from Carriacou. But I think in Grenada, we just have to be a little more open-minded, and when the carnival and the Christmas time, instead of we jumping, jab, we should acknowledge the older folks and the younger people who dance. Even those dance groups, they jump and they whine and these things, but when they have to perform in the stadium, you see they're doing a nice little dances, the culture dances. So I don't think it's fair for Grenadians to broadcast that Grenada culture has died. Maybe I'm wrong.
All right, stay on the line with me, because I love the fact that I love the fact that you're a young person, and hearing it from you says a lot. Now, I don't think that we're saying that the culture has died, but I believe that years down the line, we're on the road to that.
Yes, it's very true, because we for instance, Carnival around August time, we tend to always talk about the jab, and Moses running up and all. I went to school with Moses in college, and I know Moses was this kind of outgoing person, this kind of outspoken person. So it's nice to see Moses running up and down. But a lot of us, we like this kind of tebe, so to speak. We like this kind of low thing. It's about jab, and who, man, honey, who, and woman. We like this kind of tebe. But I think Grenada, it's going to die if we young people, like myself, do not read. We must learn to read and watch TV and listen to the older people, like Kings Douglas and these people. I remember when the government had the Taiwanese and these people coming in the Trade Center, Youth Center, and they used to have them heaving up the little plates and stuff out in the air. I used to like to see that.
Right.
And then you have Kings Douglas used to give his nautical folk story. Look, just the other day, Daddy, my father, was listening Kings Douglas and these people on TV with the Trinidad people giving the nice little stories about Grenadians like this, and you cannot make joke with Grenadian women. And it's a nice little...
Yes.
It's a nice little... I like to see that. I mean, I may be so old, but I'm young, but... I like to see that, and I'm a pro-Grenadian.
Well, I'll tell you this. I do not as much as I'd like to know a lot of cultural dancing. And do you know that with the big skirt dancing, it tells, a lot of the dances tells a story that a lot of us young people call, what we calling it now, horning, and husband taking... woman taking husband from wife, and these kind of, all of these things happened back then, you know.
Yes,
but they told,
actually.
Yep.
When Noah and this Job and all these people and them.
Exactly.
Before God got angry and he destroyed the people, the world with the flood and so forth. So these things happen. It's part of life. These things happen. But if we dwell on the negatives, I listen to you on a regular basis, and we tend to dwell on the negatives. I think it's because we get more views in today's society. We get more views
with negativity.
Kind of stupidness, don't mind me. But I don't like these things. I find people must like to enjoy positivity. Yes, Kit Mitchell, the Honorable the Right Kit Mitchell is not the best of the best, but he tries. Even the opposition, they might not like this thing happening, but it feels good when you hear Honorable Ray Roberts or the Prime Minister, the opposition leader. Well, now we have Tobias. When they could critique and say, well, okay, yes, Mr. Prime Minister, it's not like this. I prefer, now we in the COVID-19, people not working. I would like for the bus drivers to come out and this kind of thing. That's why you get a better understanding, and you will know how people would think, and you know where people is going forward. But if all we do is just criticizing, and always feel that, okay, things have to go this way, and the next thing is money. If you don't have $5 to pay them, it's like you the worst person on the face of the earth. And not so life's supposed to be. You're supposed to have a little... Be open-minded, I guess is the right thing to say.
Yeah.
So that you can move forward, even if the person have a little $5. Yes, you're charging $10, but you have a little honest. I know it's COVID-19 crisis. You will get the $5 the next time, but you have to be so careful again. So when they're telling you they will pay the $5 and then you pay the $5. But that is sad, but at the same time, there is positive. And I think that, if more people like myself, I don't know if you have a lot of others like me, can support the local artists and the local folklore and all these things and stuff, I think we'll be looking at a brighter future.
Wonderful. Well said. And thank you so much for calling.
No problem.
All right. Yep. These are the things that I like to hear, when our young people can outrightly say, let's focus on the positive. And all of the stories that the youth of today are hearing and talking about with haunting this and haunting, these things were told before. I mean, in a different way, with a little bit more color and a little bit more life and a little bit more dramatics to it. But it was told before. All of these dances, and if we only understand what they're about, then maybe we'll have a greater appreciation. And as the young lady said, she likes to see culture. Maybe we need to have more avenues where it is displayed, And one of the questions I wanted to ask her is, whenever you see these activities, these displays of culture, what are the numbers like? Do you see as much people as you see for Carnival? Do you see as much people as you see for Independence? Do you see as much people as you see in all of those little shows? And that's the problem. Not that we don't need to support things that we like, but we must also give our younger generation an opportunity to embrace culture if they need to. But if we don't put it out there, they don't know what to embrace. They don't know what they're embracing. They've never seen it. They've never enjoyed it the way some of us have. So these are some of the things that we have to take into consideration. But keep the calls coming. The number to call is 440-7377 for local calls. And if you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it's 347-329-3101 to contribute to the conversation. What can we do to keep our culture alive? How can we improve our tourism product to be more than just granatang, to be more than just a couple people playing pan or dancing on the... what is it, the cruise port when the people come in? What more can we do? You know, how can we tell them our story? How can we give them a taste of what Grenadian culture and Grenadian heritage is all about? So when they go back, so when the cruise ships have to choose their destinations, they say, Grenada is it, because listen, when you go there, you get a whole show, a whole history. It's exciting, it's invigorating. That's what we want to hear. And that's what we should want for our people. You know, some of us, we look at tourism, and every time our Prime Minister or Minister of Tourism speaks about tourism, we look at it as if with a bad taste in our mouth, as if all they're studying is tourism. But tourism isn't just cruise ship. Tourism isn't just hotels. Tourism isn't just Granatang Lake. Tourism is our culture. It's about expressing who we are as Grenadians to the people who come. It's about people all over the world wanting to come to Grenada and enjoy who we are as a people, our background, our history, our heritage, our likes, our dislikes. That's what tourism should be to all of us. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. And I'm saying I am just glad to know that I'm living in an island called Grenada. Now, Miss Duncan, I always like to start off by saying that I believe the majority of us in Grenada today have access to some device that tells us or shows us what is taking place in the rest of the world. And under any circumstances, during this crisis, when you judge Grenada performance overall, I don't have no facts or evidence to say that many countries envy us, but I can say, without a doubt, we have done exceptionally well. Our medical professionals in Grenada here at all levels have shown us that they are up to the task. And they not just can only follow local protocols, but they have all the necessary capacity and ability to follow international protocols. Now, Miss Duncan, we live in a capitalist society. We are not, generally speaking, we are not involved here in profit sharing. So you pay me for my work. And your profit at the end of the day is yours. You pay the necessary taxes that allows you to operate in an organized structure. So when economic and financial crisis occurs, yes, there are something we call stimulus package. Yes, you may get some help, or you may not get help based on how organized you are. And that is part of the problem that we face here in our country over the years. People don't want to be part of any, organized structure to pay a little because they cannot see the benefits based on what they are being told. But when situations like that occur, you understand, they see exactly what it is.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So, and your profit is yours. But at the end of the day, Ms. Duncan, we conform to a free market system. And that's the way the cookie crumbles at certain times during the journey of looking for more or looking for plenty. You know, these are the risks we take. Now, as I listen to some of the daily morning programs, some of the folks that I'm hearing, Miss Duncan, asking for help, I'm sitting back and I'm saying, well, listen, when they make that investment in the first place, I mean, what were they thinking? You know what I mean? What was the risk involved? COVID-19 should make a lot of us as aspiring entrepreneurs in this country more aware of the possibilities that can exist along that path, you know. But let me wrap up here by saying, Miss Duncan, I am an optimist about the end product of COVID-19. And you may, oh, Lord, I'm saying convince somebody in the background where I am is saying it's not COVID, it's COVID. Yes. You know, no, thank you for the correction. And Ms. Duncan, learning is a lifelong experience. And I'm going to tell you, you know, in my journey of traveling, I realized that after leaving Grenada, I had was to go back to school at the age of 31 or 32. And you know, I was a little bit embarrassed, but I said, listen, nobody here knows me, nobody there knows me, so I'm looking to elevate myself. You know, there is nothing to be embarrassed about. Do you know, after enrolling my first day of class, Miss Duncan, I fell into the category of the young or the youthful, because the majority of persons who was in that class was, generally speaking, in my age group are elder than me. Very few was under my age. No, so let me say that I'm optimistic about the end product of COVID-19. And you may say, why? And I will say to you, do you remember the general that was in charge of Ivan and after Ivan? You may say yes. I say, who was the general in charge when Emily hit us right after Ivan?
Yep.
You will know that. I say in 2013, there was an economic and financial crisis that had us in our country selling up assets just to pay salaries, you know, and wages. I don't want to say it, I don't want to blame those who was put all the fault on those who was responsible at the time, because we know what was taking place. But it was...
Oh no, I don't know what happened there, but it seems like we lost that call. Oh wow. Okay. Guys, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot for us to discuss as it relates to tourism. And this gives us an opportunity to revamp tourism in Grenada, to put a new shiny face to tourism, to fill the insides of that carcass with a lot more of our culture, a lot more of our heritage. What we choose to do now to improve our tourism product will determine how our heritage survives in the next coming years. You know, it's funny because sometimes we argue about a lot of things, but I'll tell you this. We have a lot to do as people in the country to fix a lot of the things. It's not government to fix it, it's us. We have to fix it. So, as an individual, you may have an idea. You may have a passion. The platform is there. It's set. The opportunities are there. They're set. You just need to take that passion, take those opportunities, and turn what you have into a reality. See, we don't want a society where everything is run by government, because as soon as that happens, conversations would be a lot different. Then we will start talking about a communist society. Then we will start talking about who dictating who. But right now, government is giving everybody... democracy is such a beautiful thing because it gives every citizen the right to express themselves, to express their ideas, to turn their ideas into reality. It gives them an opportunity to determine how our economy will be. We determine that. You know? So we have to take advantage of the opportunities that are afforded to us as a democratic society. And don't just look at democracy as politics and saying, oh, well, democracy gives me the right to speak, so I'm going to open my mouth and let the words fly out. No. Or democracy, you use the word democracy conveniently when you want to get your point across. Or you use democracy conveniently when you want to prove a political point. No. Democracy is so much more than that. And we must embrace it for what it is. As a people, we have an opportunity to make a difference in so many different sectors, in so many different ways. Why does it always have to be government? Why is it that government has to fix tourism? Why is it that if the heritage has to be revived, it has to be government? Why does it have to be government? It can be anyone. We have a caller on the line. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Ms. Duncan.
Hi.
So I've been listening to not all the conversation, but some of it. It's really interesting, especially with the situation that we find ourselves in. Tourism will change. It will never look the same again. What I think, my humble little opinion here, a lot of it will be moving towards is a dependency on agriculture. Would you agree with me on that?
I would say yes and no. And I'll explain why after, but go ahead and make your point.
Okay, right. In the sense, I would take the yes in terms of we're going to need to lean on agriculture a lot. If this thing worsens or doesn't end soon, most of our people would not be able to feed, because most of our people actually depend on the tourism industry heavily in some way, shape, or form, whether it's directly or indirectly. One of the things that I've been advocating, and Grenada Herbal Foundation has been advocating for a while now, is that we should look into legalizing cannabis. Now, normally when people hear that phrase, the first thing they think of is wanton smoking of weed. I would like to say and make the point very clearly that legalizing cannabis in Grenada has, in my opinion, and the Grenada Herbal Foundation opinion, has absolutely nothing to do with the female version of weed, smoking of weed for any recreational purposes, and honestly, even if you go so far as medical reasons, I have no interest in that. My interest is, especially in a time like now, where we need production to be increased, where we need employment for people who used to be employed and who won't be able to make the kind of money they need to just to put food on table. We have a plant that the male version, the male cannabis plant, which we call hemp, can produce clothes, plastics, concrete, lumber. It could produce almost anything we want. We can build factories out of the plant without ever having to smoke or sell a spliff. Now, I think in this time that we have, since there's kind of a break, it'll behoove us to have an intelligent conversation, not an emotional, knee-jerk, red herring, boogeyman type conversation that we normally have about cannabis, but an actual serious conversation about cannabis in the sense that America has legalized in the Farm Act growing hemp. Over 35 states in America has some form of legal recreational medical marijuana use on their books. Most of Europe, again, is already on that page. We seek funding, we seek guidance, we seek input from these people. They tell us, quote unquote, sometimes what to do, especially in our law. What I would like to find out is, how is it that those countries, which right now, if you want to, if you're in California, you can walk down the street smoking a spliff. If you're in Kentucky, you can have 2 farms growing hemp to produce whatever you want. Yet in our little island of Grenada, where we need this type of production, we're told by those same people that we shouldn't do that. That's not in our best interest. Yet they don't pay our bills. How, and do you think that this particular conversation is pertinent right now for our people? Especially seeing that I'm not sure if it's the current or the former head of the Tourism Association actually advocated for the legalization of smoked cannabis because it will boost our tourism product.
Okay.
How do you see us having that discussion without being too emotional?
Okay. Well, caller, I must say that, and thank you, of course, for your contribution. We are a long way off for discussing the legalization of cannabis. That is a long conversation off. So I would say that right now, nobody's frame of mind is even in that place. And I think maybe it needs to be more of a regional conversation, because even if we legalize it here in Grenada, we have to think about the regional implications of the legalizing cannabis. So it's more than just saying let's do it, and a lot more conversation has to be put into it, and it has to be looked at from all different aspects. How do we legalize it? How much do we legalize? What's the purpose of legalizing it? What do we legalize it for? Who has access to it? If a man is caught with 100 pounds of it, how do we deal with something like that? So it's a big conversation to have, and I think now is really not the time for us to even be thinking along those lines, because we have so much more. Now, with that being said, we do have our minister with us. So let me get her settled, and then we'll be right back. So I'm going to take a short break, and we will be right back.
Crumble unto the floor, the spears will fall. I've been made and sealed with love, but time to battle, I'll find them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my soul has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail, and no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them.
Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turned Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up.
So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail, and no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them.
Thank you, Father. man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you give us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of lies. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this storm is coming, I can see the high tide rage. Without you there is no other. Could there be that real decisive?
All right, and we are back. And for those of you who are not accustomed to seeing me in my mask, voila, I have to wear it today. All right, and in studio with me, I have none other than our Honorable Minister for Tourism, Minister Clarice Modeste Kerwin. Good morning, Minister. How are you?
Well, good morning to you, and good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and anyone anywhere else who is listening to us at this time.
Wonderful. Now, I know you're here this morning in very high spirits because from the pictures that have already been circulating, you went to welcome our 19, was it 19 of them? 19 Grenadians back home once again. And of course, we know we have some coming in on Sunday or Sunday. Can you speak a little bit to that?
All right. So, yes, from the time COVID established itself in our world, one of the issues was the issue of the cruise ships not sailing anymore, and the issue of repatriation certainly came up because we do have Grenadians working on cruise ships. So it has been a difficult journey, but our government from day one has committed to bringing our sons and daughters back home, and we have been working assiduously to ensure that that took place. It had its challenges, but today we've seen our third cruise ship coming in, and we are also expecting to see two of our visitors two of our locals, who are in St. Vincent and were there at the kind hospitality of the Vincentian government. Today was a very special day. Maybe I should say extra, because every day was a very special day to see our sons and daughters coming back home, knowing that they're safe. When everyone tested negative, it was a joy for us. So, but today was extra special because, we went out there expecting the kind of calm, maybe a slight frustration, whatever. And there were our young people playing music and chipping coming down the road from the cruise ship on the berthing facility, the jetty, whatever you call it. And it just gave everybody a lift. They came in such good spirits. I must say that Disney has been one of the more considerate ones so far in terms of discussions, prior notice. They didn't take us by surprise. And while our dedicated quarantine facilities are full at this time, we decided not to delay their coming in, and so we have gotten additional facilities to accommodate those, and we are that anxious to see our children come home. So that is where we are, and we're happy to see them come. Very soon, the earlier ones who came in will be going home, and I know they'll be happy to be reunited with their parents and so on. And we continue to work aggressively to even engage those who have not engaged us,
right,
so that we can schedule adequate timing and spacing between arrivals so that we can use the facilities that we have to maximum benefit for all of us. That is where we are.
Well, I know that a lot of them are very, very happy because they just want to be home. For a lot of them, it's just being able to touch land and say, I am home, I am in Grenada, I am happy. That is it for a lot of them. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the two individuals from St. Vincent. there was a lot of talk about what happened in that aspect. Do you want to shed some quick light on why that decision was taken?
Well, it will be quick light, because what happened is we got to hear about that. We got notice in the afternoon that this cruise ship was bringing in passengers in the next morning.
Right.
The problem with our cruise ship port is that it's closed. And therefore you have to get customs, immigration, everybody there.
Right.
And so the message I sent was, could you send them, get a Liat ticket to send them here? Because what has happened in a few instances, we have Liat flights bringing in cargo. However, if we have a stranded Grenadian who managed to get to Barbados, we have, and they've been there for a long while waiting.
Right.
We have made some arrangements for them to come. So they made efforts to purchase a ticket, and then subsequently I heard that they weren't successful. You would realize that a few days ago, Liat again announced that they would continue the ban on passenger transport for the time being. So that was the day before that they tried to get the ticket. It didn't work. And the next thing they said, all right, they're going to St. Vincent, and they asked the government if they could leave them there, and we make some arrangement. Anyway, the government agreed, and we made arrangements. Of course, they would have to be tested and whatnot. And I must say the Ministry of Health, the Chief Medical Officer, and the Port Authority in St. Vincent, they were very, very kind, very helpful. And we worked on it, and we waited on the time frame agreed upon. A second test was done. They're fine. We've been in touch with them. I've spoken to them. Myself personally, and Grenada Tourism Authority has been in touch. And this morning I spoke to them. We had made an arrangement for them to come in with a flight. So we just await. I have been running from one thing to the next, and I haven't been brought up to date, but they should have left at 11 o'clock. But they were in good spirits, all packed and ready to come. So we hope that shortly they will be on their motherland again.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Now, there's a bigger topic that we're going to go straight into for the interest of time, and that has to do with tourism. Now, the last time we spoke about how the region is now clamoring behind who would have the best tourism product to be able to engage tourists to choose their island per se. And we spoke about how we improve Grenada's tourism product. How far has conversation gotten with different vendors, I should say, that produce or take part in the tourism product that we already have, in terms of improving what they have now to make it better for when we open again?
Okay. Yes, the opening up would involve a lot of the various sectors in the Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation. I must confess that our focus has been to open up in a safe manner so that we keep the gains that we have made in terms of containing the virus. This has been of paramount importance to us. So we've been having meetings with airports, looking at protocols, looking at supplies like a checklist. What do you have to have at the airport? Some more cameras and thermometers, a dedicated nursing station, and all of these things. We're working with the Ministry of Health team on that. And while some airlines have been asking us when we are going to open, it will take us another couple of days before we can put a date to that, because we must have everything in place first before we can give a date. We also have to balance, because giving the date doesn't mean that you will say tomorrow, because some of the airlines would have to start marketing their schedules a month, 2 months, whatever before. So all of these things are being taken into consideration. from where I'm coming here now, I just had to leave a meeting and run, because between the Ministry of Tourism and the GTA, we are looking at the protocols. GHTA, that's the hotel sector, they have come up with their protocols themselves. They have come up with what they have to do, their checklist, in consultation with health, and also looking at what others have done. You know, one doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, you can learn, and they've researched a lot of documents. They have done a fantastic job. Now we're down to the fine tuning, so that Ministry of Health now is more involved on the day-to-day, the supervision, doing dry runs to see that everybody understand what they have to do and so on. So the next week or two, that is what we'll be dedicated to. So that's airport, that's the hotel sector, which we think is a key one. We're going to be talking to the tour operators. Tomorrow there's a meeting, and next week we'll have a broader meeting to discuss with tour operators what they must have. But that is a smaller task than the hotels, of course, and the airport. We are looking at the other sectors, the vendors and so on, to do some training with them and ensure they know what they have to do, keep the social distancing and all of that. We'll have to find innovative ways to handle money and all, you know, anything that can transmit the virus. They'll have to be educated on it. Some training has started already.
Right.
GHTA has started. There are some hotels that have their own training programs that, while it has to be vetted by the Ministry of Health, they have some tried and tested protocols. Take, for example, Sandals, because they have their chain entity, they have put together a task force to do that. And so they're sharing it with the islands. Silver Sands has done this, Radisson has done this, Calabash has come up with this. So a few of the frontline ones have done, but we have a commitment to every hotel. So I was saying to staff, look, regardless to who comes up with this, and I'm happy that some are taking the lead, we have to make sure that those who are behind, we pull them up together with others. So, and I must say that the others have been kind in sharing their protocols with us and so on. So it's a team effort. In terms of the product, though, this is one of the things that we've been talking about. As a matter of fact, I left them on the product discussion. We're looking at how can we use what we have in a different way. And even yesterday we had a meeting with Prime Minister, and persons was saying, be more eco-sensitive, you know. There are a number of things we can do, trails, hikes. And, you know, these are things that doesn't need people bunching up together.
Right.
Because everybody go at their own pace, and it's a safer thing to do now.
Right.
So we're looking at what can be done out there, do some small tours with people on the farmlands. One of the things that is doing very well, even before COVID, is the farm-to-table concept, where you do a tour with people, you show them some of the local fruits, and so on. And then at the end of it, you take them to a table where they can eat and enjoy some of the things that they have seen on their tours. And tourists like that. We don't see much of that in Grenada, but there's a lot in terms of using nature, what we have naturally, either growing or existing, or streams, or, you know, all of these facilities that we can bring people out. So this is the kind of the messaging that we've started. You are well aware that government has a soft loan that can give up to a maximum of $40,000. You can have up to $10,000 without any serious collaterals. And this has been a deterrent for people who are not accustomed with taking loans or don't have properties. And there are a number of tourism industries that can start with a good $10,000.
Yeah.
So our task now is to put a program together to educate the public, sensitize them, share with them ideas. Sometimes when I look at the promos from some of the businesses, they will say, they will show you things you can purchase under $10, under $50, whatever. So we have to do that. What can you do under $10,000? Where if you don't have collateral, what you can do. And these are the challenges we're going to do. But I want to say, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, We are wrapping up our arrangement for a zip line in Grenada. That would be a serious new attraction, and it will be very eco-friendly. No serious wall construction or anything. It would be mostly wooden stuff and so on, and all of the flora and the fauna would be left alone for people to enjoy. And we also have a young couple, Grenadian couple, who have come up with a fantastic plan to improve the experience at Annandale. And that we're moving ahead with that with them as well to finalize the formalities. COVID did set us back a bit, but we're playing a serious catch-up. So we want to strengthen some of the attractions we already have. I must also say that some of them that we used before may not be opened in the first phase of the opening, because you have to look at the risk, the measure of risk. If it's something where there's bodily contact, like massages and so, that might have to be put off for later on. If it is maybe just two persons going out to dive, that might be something easier. I was saying to them that I think Grenada lends itself to that. It's a wide expanse, and if you're doing a tour down to the lake, people can observe the physical or the social distancing, however you put it. So we have come up with a list of things that can be done in the early stages once we open up, what will follow, and so on, based on the level of risk that we envisage there will be for that. So I must say a lot has gone in, a lot of work, and within the next few days we will be sharing our documents, sharing our thoughts, but also training has already started for different categories of workers.
Now, I know, Minister, that there are a lot of people in the diaspora who want to come home because things overseas are not as great as they are here, or not as managed as they are here. Now, what would you say to an individual with an idea that would help boost our tourism product and wants to come home? What advice would you give to that person who wants to come back and start a business in the field of tourism?
Okay. Now, one of the things that we're very clear on as a government and even within the COVID team is that we cannot say to people, look, visitors are welcome, but Grenadians abroad are not welcome. We know that we have to take care of all of our nationals in the diaspora. We know that there are a lot who want to come back. We are looking at the how, because it has to be managed. We cannot lose the gains that we have already made. Some things are very difficult to do. It's easy to quarantine persons coming off the cruise ship for 14 days because they know when they're done, they're going home. If somebody comes to Grenada for 14 days, how do you tell them they have to live in quarantine, not see their family, not see their friends, you know? So it is complicated, and I know the COVID team is looking at the modalities, how it can be done. The thing is not if, it is how it can be done, so it's safe for the persons coming in, and it's extremely, extremely safe for the persons who are either going to work with them or live with them, and so on. So all of these modalities are being fine-tuned. But for a Grenadian who has a tourism idea, that would be fantastic. That they come back, share their ideas, implement their ideas. If they come in with some money, come and do something. Because sometimes the people who are in the diaspora may have more opportunity to travel than persons who live in here. They might have seen things. They might have experienced certain things that they would have enjoyed. And they can say, you know, so many people like that. I think this is something that's easy to do, that we can do in Grenada. So we look forward to it. We welcome new ideas. In the next few days and weeks ahead, we will be sharing with our locals what they can do to get into a business. I just want to briefly touch on the synergy between agriculture and tourism. Because I know as part of that loan, government has said there's emphasis on secondary products, and that there's emphasis on well, agriculture in general.
Right.
So our chocolates, we have about 5 chocolate producing places in Grenada. Fantastic. Some are big, like the Cocoa Association. Some are smaller, but they're all doing well because people love our cocoa.
Right.
So maybe somebody can think of something to do with nutmegs or so as a secondary product that will sell locally as well as do well with visitors. Also, the food. We cannot say to hoteliers to prioritize locally grown food if we are not producing enough.
Yep.
If we're not producing in serious quantities, if we're not producing on a consistent basis, and we're not only waiting on the rainy season to produce, because some people do that.
Yeah.
As a serious business person, especially if you want to supply the hotel sector, you have to be year-round. There might be some periods where you produce more because the rain seems to have something special to grow food. But you must have it year-round. So if you have a contract to deliver so much on a whatever periodic time, we have to be able to do it. I know the Ministry of Agriculture has come up with a fantastic proposal, and I'm sure one of these days when the minister comes, she will share that with you. But I'm excited about it. I think that as we look at opening up and the hotel sector starts, we have some new hotels that are due to come. Recently, an agreement was signed between 2 private sector persons. Of course, government had its role to play, but we've seen property change hands with the promise of 3 hotels coming on stream.
Right.
And then, so that is the Mount Cinnamon area, the other one near to Port Louis, I think in the area where the old Islander, you might be too young to remember where the old Islander hotel was, but persons older than you might know about it, but some persons who are older than you who didn't used to come to town often, like me, may not be very familiar. But certainly as a child, I used to hear about the Islander Hotel. So now I'm saying that with 3 hotels coming on stream, did I mention one in the area of Mount Cinnamon? And with the 2 that were launched in St. David's, we look forward to that, a development by Range Developers. And, you know, the one at Livera has great promise. So island-wide, we've seen a number of things happening that we think will augur well. So I would like to say to the Grenadian people, look into the tourism sector. If you need ideas, check with the GTA to get ideas. There are things that we make that are fantastic, or straw work and other things. Let's see how we can beef up the quality, the finish, and be more competitive. And let us learn how to market what we have.
Yeah.
How to sell, how to be a good vendor without harassing people. Because if you have the right product, if you have the right sweetness in your voice, and encourage people rather than trying to pull their hand and say, come and buy from me, you will find that there is a market within the tourism sector for persons to do business.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And as we are on the topic of agriculture, the marriage between agriculture and tourism, is there a way for tourism or agriculture, whichever of the two, to discuss with or to let the hoteliers put out there what they need? So, for example, a hotel is on stream and they would need a supply of, let's say, 1,000 tomatoes at the end of every month, you know, so at least people know, okay, this is what the hoteliers want, this is what we need to be able to provide them with. And I mean, even before the onset of operations, they can say, okay, this is a list of the things that we are going to be serving on our menus. How many of these things are you able to provide? Is that happening, or can that happen? So farmers at least have an idea of what they need to produce.
Okay. Now, from what I know, some of it has happened in a slightly different way. You may be familiar with the name Theresa Marichaud. She is retired from the Ministry of Agriculture, and she did extension work, agriculture extension work, for many years in that ministry, and she has introduced a lot of farmers to the hotel sector, acting as the middle person, working with Grenada, which is a farming organization of women, and they have done a great job in providing supplies for hotels. And then when they couldn't supply enough, they did something like you said. They came up with a list of things that the hotels would like, the frequency and all of that, and they share it with farmers. They scheduled the farmers. So like they would say, plant beans on the weekend. They would tell another farmer, plant beans 2 weeks from now, so that you get a sort of continuous flow. Because what we usually have is when you have tomatoes, you have tomatoes.
Yep.
Price goes down to nothing, and it's there, and people have spoilages and wastages. And when you don't have, you just don't have. Or if you do have, then because it is scarce, the price rockets up, and certain persons cannot have access. So this has started there, but there's room for more. As more hotels come, there is room for other persons to do that. There is probably room for the Ministry of Agriculture. And I must say the minister and I have sat many times, and we have also met. We met with the chef and persons from Silver Sands, for example. We did that jointly, looking at what their demands would be. I know the chef who started there, he introduced new products, encouraged farmers to do zucchini, which I understand grew here before, but was grown, was a concerted effort then was made to produce it, and it did very well. He would look for certain things like what we call tonka beans, because he makes special recipes with that. And so I know he came to St. Mark, he went all over the island, speaking to farmers in different places, and he could call more names of farmers than you and I who are locally here cannot. So there has been some outreach, and we need to see how we can pick up the pieces and continue that process.
Absolutely. Well, I've just been informed that the 2 Grenadians arrived shortly via
RSS. Yes, that's who was supposed to bring them. Yes. So we're bringing our children home.
They're coming home.
2 by 2, 10 by 10. I tell you, I mean, sometimes you have to blow your own trumpet. Yeah. And our government from day one made that commitment. It takes a lot of dialogue, and sometimes you have to give up certain things because your children are more precious than any money or any facility, and our government have shown themselves able and willing to do just that.
Absolutely. I have one last question because we have about 2 minutes left. And the question says, what happens to people like me who worked at a hotel and was given a letter of termination due to COVID-19?
All right, this reached our ears, and I know the Prime Minister. The first I heard it was through the Prime Minister, actually. Very, very concerned that took place. As you are well aware, and we didn't have much time to speak about it, but government has done a lot to buffer the blow of COVID in the tourism sector. So one of the things I spoke about is this small hotel loan, which we hope they would use it for a number of things to improve on the room stock or the quality of the rooms, but also payroll support, giving a significant percentage of the salaries, so at least persons can stay home and have their basic needs satisfied and ride out the storm that way. So under certain threshold of income, persons could have just gone online, applied through the Ministry of Finance to the COVID team that is looking at that, and once they were eligible, they would do it. There were certain requirements. You had to be registered, and with the GTA, you had to be registered with NIS, but all of these things are being looked at. So now recently, they started with the hotel workers, and then they moved to dive and so on. So a number of persons who have been waiting will be happy to know that they have been added to the list. But coming to, so most hotels, they paid up to a certain point. Their workers are waiting. They are looking at a process called furlough, where you take on a different set and some weight to be taken on as situations improve. But it's only one hotel I heard that had paid off people and said, go home, you're no longer affiliated to the hotel. And I feel, it was very disappointing. And I think it was a very premature thing to do. But, people do what they feel obligated to do. But in the interest of the whole industry and in the interest of human, in terms of sensitivity to human needs,
Right.
I thought it could have been dealt with differently.
Okay. Now, will these individuals be covered under the payroll support or income? Well, not income support, they'll have the payroll support because they're no longer employed.
They will be supported because the establishment I heard about, it met the deadline.
Okay.
Because you had to be operating
Right.
from a certain period of time. It met the deadline. So these people will be given the payroll support. But remember, payroll support is not indefinite.
Yeah.
Government's revenues have been drastically reduced. And so in the circumstances, I think the government in office is doing a fantastic job.
Wonderful. Well, Minister, we have run out of and over our time, but of course it's always a pleasure speaking with you and your team on what we're doing, what we can do, and I hope to speak to you again when things are, up and running and decisions have been made on how we move forward. And I know a lot of people are in objection to moving forward with the tourism product, but I always say we have to at some point move back to some sort of normalcy.
That's correct.
And if we don't start moving, then we'll never know what works and what doesn't, and we'll just be like sitting ducks. So do you have any closing words that you'd like to say?
Yeah, just to say, I know a lot of work has been done. The Ministry of Health has done a fantastic job under the leadership of the minister, the other members of staff, in tracking down this contact tracing thing and dealing with it appropriately in a timely fashion so that we've been able to contain it. When you hear big countries are saying our contact tracing, our public health is in deficit, these people had it down pat.
Yeah.
So we do not have to be fearful of moving forward. What we have to do is to be strategic, do our work diligently, do our research, put structures in place, put protocols, train, get all of our supplies, and I believe we can ride out the storm. We are in a good place at this time in terms of our sick persons. No one has died. Most people have gone home and so on. And I think it's a good place and time for us to look at opening up cautiously, carefully, but we have to think of the living with COVID and doing certain things that we have to do. This country has to move forward, and we'll do it in a timely manner and the safest way that we possibly can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Minister, for taking the time to come here and speak with us and to speak to our listeners. So, guys, as we always say here, in whatever you say and whatever you do, guys, be safe, be secure. I always want to be talking with you and never about you. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day.
Imagine
The
that you've
following
worked
is a
all year.
statement on the Unemployment Assistance Benefit, UAB, by Director of the National Insurance Scheme, Mr. Dorset Cromwell.
The National Insurance Board over the years continued to hold true to its mantra, serving you because we care. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on economies has pushed countries worldwide to implement expansive stimulus packages to address the economic fallout for citizens and the almost certain recession that will follow. As the pandemic takes its toll on business operation, an increasing number of workers face a layoff or reduced hours, significantly reducing their ability to take care of basic needs and their overall spending power. On March 20, 2020, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, announced a series of economic stimulus measures, including the introduction of an unemployment benefit program to be administered by the National Insurance Scheme in the amount of $10 million. The mandatory curfew imposed to help curb the spread of COVID-19 resulted in economic activity grinding to a halt during the month of April, and although the government has started easing restrictions, it will be a long way back to normal. Cognizant of the challenges that lie ahead, the NIS is honored to join forces with the government of Grenada and employers in supporting and caring for affected persons, notwithstanding our own constraints. It is the second time in its history that the NIS has been called to provide an unemployment benefit. You may recall that after the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, the NIS paid an unemployment benefit. That was not a benefit offered by the NIS, and contributors were not paying towards that benefit. However, the NIS, recognizing the economic malaise that followed, saw the need to take care of our valued contributors. As a consequence, we introduced a temporary unemployment benefit, and 3,600 of our valued customers received $6.8 million over a period of 6 months. As we prepare to pay unemployment benefit this month, it is important to note that this comes at a time when the NIS is itself facing a financial challenge. You may recall that in 2019, members of the NIS team traversed the country, highlighting the deteriorating financial and actuarial position of the NIS and making a case for changes. During these consultations, we received their overwhelming support to make the tough but necessary changes, and the government of Grenada acted prudently with your support to make the following 2 critical changes: to increase the contribution rate by 2% in 2020 and increase the retirement age from 60 to 65 over an extended period. In January of 2020, the first of these changes, the 2% increase, took legislative effect. COVID-19 could not have come at a worse possible time for the NIS, and its impact on the sustainability of the NIS in the long term can be significant. This pandemic is expected to have substantial impact on all of the NIS revenue sources as a consequence of the almost sure decline in economic activity and looming recession. Despite the reduction in income, the NIS remains committed to our pensioners and other beneficiaries. For the month of March, our pensioners received $8.2 million, and total benefit expenditure was in excess of $10 million. Pension expenditure will continue to increase as new pensioners are added monthly and pensioners continue to live longer. We anticipate that pension expenditure in 2020 will range from $6 to $8 million monthly. Already, with the reduction in income during the month of April, the NIS was forced to liquidate fixed deposits to finance its pension expenditure. This situation, though unsustainable, is expected to continue in the immediate future as the NIS honor its commitment to the Grenadian people. The situation we find ourselves in is not unique to Grenada. Unemployment packages are being discussed and implemented by several regional social security systems. It is important to note that social security systems are at various stages of sustainability, and the ability to support such a program may vary significantly. What sets Grenada apart is that we are not paying for 3 months like most of the other social security systems in the region. This program will run for 6 months. Like the unemployment benefit paid for after Ivan, this benefit was not on the NIS books or regulations. Contributors were not contributing towards an unemployment benefit. The National Insurance Board and the NIS family, understanding the hardship faced by contributors, considers this an excellent opportunity and vehicle to serve our customers during a difficult period. So let's discuss the key components of this program. The National Insurance Board has allocated $10 million to provide support and assistance in these difficult times, in conjunction with support provided by the Government of Grenada and your employers. This pie of $10 million will be shared equally among all. There will be no distinction between higher income and lower income workers. This will not be based on your income. Eligible persons must have been contributing to the NIS and must be unemployed as a direct consequence of COVID-19. Persons who are receiving income support or payroll support from the Government of Grenada will not be eligible. There will be no double dipping. Application for this benefit will be made by employers and self-employed persons only. And in keeping with the need for social distancing, application can only be made using the form available on the NIS website www.nisgrenada.org. Qualified person will receive a flat monthly payment of $330 per month over a period of 6 months. Payments will commence during the last week of May 2020. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your patience and understanding in these difficult times. Stay tuned to our social media platforms and listen to the local radio and television station for further updates. Continue to stay safe.
The preceding was a statement on the Unemployment Assistance Benefit, UAB, by Director of the National Insurance Scheme, Mr. Dorset Cromwell. Government expands categories of businesses eligible for stimulus package. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Wednesday, May 20th, 2020, I am Sherian Noel. The Government of Grenada is expanding the categories of businesses eligible to benefit from the COVID-19 economic stimulus package. At this week's meeting of the Cabinet, Ministers of Government agreed that water taxi and water sport operators, small tour operators, walking tour guides, the Annandale jumpers, marine retail stores, marinas, and dive shops should be considered where eligible for payroll support. Additionally, the Cabinet has included barber shops and hair salons as a special category for payroll or income support for the period April to June 2020. One of the eligibility criteria is that these micro, small and medium-sized enterprises must be duly registered. Therefore, government has also agreed to provide a 3-month amnesty from May to July 2020 for these business enterprises to register with the National Insurance Scheme NIS and the Inland Revenue Department IRD. Both registration processes are free and can be completed within a single day. Business owners and managers are encouraged to take advantage of this opportunity to obtain the required tax identification number, which is necessary when applying for stimulus benefits. There will be no penalties for businesses using the amnesty period to be registered. Additionally, sole traders or business owners whose business is operated on a name other than their own must first register their business name with the Corporate Affairs and Intellectual Property Office, CIPO, then follow the registration process at IRD. Moving along, the Ministry of Health boasts of more COVID-19 recoveries following the retesting of patients. In recent weeks, the ministry has embarked on a series of contact tracing and retesting at various business places. On Wednesday, National COVID-19 Response Coordinator Dr. George Mitchell said of the 7 confirmed cases, 3 has been medically cleared following a second series of tests.
Today I am pleased to report that Grenada now only has 4 active cases of COVID-19. We have retested our remaining 7 cases, and 3 of those are confirmed to be negative, and as such, they have been medically cleared. Also today, Grenada has conducted 472 PCR tests and 2,534 rapid tests. Our remaining cases are stable and are being monitored closely. We look forward to their speedy recovery.
Dr. Mitchell warned against becoming complacent even in the midst of ease of regulations by the authorities. He encouraged Grenadians to be vigilant.
I remind everyone to keep your guard up and remain very vigilant. Please practice proper hygiene with frequent hand washing. Please wear your mask when in public and exercise physical distancing of at least 6 feet. Together we can save lives. Together we can defeat COVID-19.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Distance makes the difference. Keeping the nation positive, we can do this together by uniting apart, reaching out to you at home and in the diaspora every Wednesday night from 8 to 10 right here on GIS. Join me. If we hold on together, our dreams will never die. Be a part of flattening the fear curve and replacing it with hope and positivity, sharing the stories and the expectation of a brighter tomorrow. We can beat this virus. Remember, we are in this together. Distance makes the difference. DMD, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. here on GIS. Sharing is caring.
Welcome back. The government of Grenada, in recognition of the plight of the farming community, particularly cocoa and nutmeg farmers, with the sale of produce interrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, has agreed to provide a grant of $1 million for the Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg Association, GCNA. Government says the grant is to be used strictly for price support payments for farmers across the country and not to fund administrative expenses. More in this Chris and Mitchell report.
The decision was taken at this week's cabinet meeting, which considered a proposal submitted by the Minister for Agriculture and Lands, Honorable Yolande Bain-Horsford. Explaining the rationale for the grant, Minister Bain-Horsford said, I quote, "The financial viability of the GCNA is under serious threat without the ability to export to the European markets and therefore requires this urgent injection of capital from government," unquote. Earlier this month, nutmeg farmers resumed selling their produce to the GCNA. The Agriculture and Lands Minister said the association now faces an inventory build-up and is required to pay for produce even though there are no sales on the international market. The situation has forced the GCNA to use increased overdraft facilities to continue the purchase of nutmeg and mace. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, says government is committed to ensuring the nation's farmers are not marginalized. Dr. Mitchell said, and I quote, "In light of the financial limitations of the GCNA and its inability to continue buying products without an available market, the Cabinet agreed to provide the much-needed support for farmers. Resources are scarce and there are many unknowns as it relates to the duration of the pandemic and its impact on government's revenue streams. However, as government continues to examine ways to bring relief to those most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, it is important to safeguard the livelihood of the country's farmers and to help stimulate the rural economy." This was among the critical considerations as we discussed and approved the grant for the GCNA, unquote. It is not the first time government has lent support to the commodity boards. In addition to the grant, government is also proposing a loan of $2 million to the GCNA. The terms and conditions of both the grant and the loan will be negotiated between the GCNA and a cabinet subcommittee comprising of Minister of Trade, Industry and the cooperatives, Honorable Oliver Joseph, Parliamentary Representative for St. Patrick West, Honorable Anthony Boswain, and Dr. Kelvin George, Director of the Department of Economic and Technical Cooperation. For the National Report, I am Chrisanne Mitchell.
Thank you, Chrisanne. And finally, in the news. Business representative in the Upper House, Senator Christopher Diali, says the fight against the global pandemic, COVID-19, has taken a toll on the local business community. Senator Diali on Wednesday, during an exclusive telephone interview with the GIS, said every business, small retail and manufacturing, is bearing the huge cost that is associated with the pandemic. Since the execution of the limited state of emergency in March, several businesses remain closed. According to Senator Diali, most of these businesses are those that do not satisfy the necessary protocols required. Businesses must provide a designated hand-washing station, provide sanitizers or alcohol-based solution to customers and employees, personal protective equipment (PPE), and most importantly, ensure customers follow the 6 feet social distancing protocol.
The cost for these businesses to implement those protocols is another concern, and that is some of the discussions I know is happening as to how we open back up some of these smaller businesses. For example, a nail tech or a hairdresser, the contact is almost immediate right there, and you're face to face. I don't know how a nail tech could do her business without facing her customer. Her hands, she must be facing the customer. So the protocols that has to be put in and managed at those levels have to be very carefully deliberated and looked on, and until we could give a free hand for opening.
The preservation of life is more important than livelihood.
A lot of our businesses have to take it upon themselves to meet that cost for, well, I don't know how long we could meet it, but to meet it initially as businesses reopen and we get some revenues to flow. But at the end of the day, life is more important than livelihood. So we are in a business community doing what we can to ensure that we protect our people and, of course, give them some means of having a living and getting money so that they could take care of themselves and their family.
Senator Diali said the projection on the recovery of the local business industry remains indefinite and depends heavily on the status of international countries. Grenada welcomed its first yacht at Port Louis today, following months of closure to the yachting community.
We are seeing some release of the borders to help the economy, because the yachting industry contributes significant amount of monies to the economy, and that is one area that is being lifted slowly and gradually. Similarly, for the education services, in particular SGU, there is a lot of consideration and discussions now as to how we phase and reopen that. Again, a lot of that is going to be dependent on the source market and the situation there, because you could put in as much protocols as you want, but there are going to be cases where it wouldn't be perfect and some people may slip or some people may get infected after. So we are carefully looking at that as well as we look to open back up the economy.
That story just brought an end to the National Report for Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. Now for a recap of the top story. Government expands categories of businesses eligible for stimulus package. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I'm Sherry Ann Noel. Thank you for viewing.